Sorry, no glitzy MTV style, in-your-face, totally retro, fun, funky opening. Sorry.
But Billy knows. The easiest way never to start smoking is just to say no. Besides, it's only the bad kids who smoke.
No cool hip-hop, acid rock, country western song telling you how dangerous it is. Not even disgusting photos of the damage you do every time you light up.
Wow, look at how disgusting the damage to your lungs can be.
You've seen it all, again and again and again, and it still hasn't stopped you. I could show you the most frightening, disturbing statistics.
You know, Jack, statistics show that 1/3 of all smokers are going to suffer an excruciating and painful death.
And you'd say,
It's a big deal.
Big deal.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
which brings us to this question. Why? Why, after all the anti-smoking messages, after the millions and millions of dollars spent trying to get us to avoid cigarettes, why will 3,000 teenagers begin smoking today? Why? That's right. This very day, 3,000 of us will take their first puff. That's 21,000 a week, or 1,092,000 new teenage smokers every year. So we're gonna keep this real and to the point. By answering just a few simple questions, you'll have a chance to learn about the likelihood you may begin smoking.
Hello, I already smoke.
Do you know why?
Not exactly.
Listen, even if you already smoke, you might learn something from the test that'll help you think about quitting. And that's a start. Remember, there's a war out there. Tobacco companies are constantly looking for new ways to brainwash you into believing that smoking cigarettes will help you be independent, cool, fit in with friends, actually improve how you think about yourself. Now, your teacher might have handed you a quiz before this video started. And don't freak, you weren't supposed to study or anything. This quiz, which was developed by researchers at the University of California, is just for you. It tests your attitudes on smoking and the possibility that you may become a future smoker. We'll go through all the questions one by one, and then you'll see real teens like yourself respond candidly to each one. Finally, it'll be your turn to answer either yes or no. After a short break, you can tally up your answers. Then I'll return to give you an idea of what it all means. So, let's get started. Do your parents smoke?
Yeah, my dad smokes. My mom doesn't smoke, though.
No, my parents don't smoke.
My parents don't either.
Yeah, my mother smokes.
No, none of my parents smoke.
My parents smoke a lot. Well, my dad quit.
Do any of your best friends smoke?
No.
I have a lot of friends that smoke, like 90% of them do.
Yeah, actually, me too. I have a couple of friends who smoke.
Most of my best friends smoke. I guess it's kind of like habit now. They started when they were younger, and now it's just sort of, they're addicted, so.
Do you have a favorite cigarette advertisement?
Not really. I don't pay attention to them. I pay no mind.
Some of my friends that smoke, they like Marlboro.
I don't have a favorite because I don't like cigarettes at all.
I think Newports are very popular among kids, though, because whenever you see like kids like asking other kids for cigarettes, something like you have a Newport, they don't ask for a cigarette. They'll say you have a Newport or something like that.
Give an example of a cigarette advertising message.
One of the messages that we get is that mature women smoke. The cool mature women smoke. I mean, you see it on TV all the time and stuff.
Yeah, it's like kind of like they're trying to make it like you seem sophisticated, and like, you know, if you smoke, you're just like, oh, look at them, you know.
I think Newport, I think they try to show people having fun as they smoke. They'll show pictures of people like in the water or doing activity with their friends and trying to make smoking look good and cool.
Do you own any tobacco merchandise?
I can't think of anything I have with Newports or Cools. No, Winston's, no, nothing.
Yeah, same with me. I don't have anything. My parents wouldn't allow it anyway.
I have playing cards that have the Marlboro logo on them.
The Marlboro, yeah, you hand in the miles. So I have some of that stuff.
Do you use that merchandise?
We have duffel bags and stuff like that from Marlboro and stuff like that. And if I'm going on a trip or something, I mean, they're pretty good bags. I mean, they're pretty quality. So yeah, if I'm going on a trip or something, I'll probably use it, yeah. No, we don't use any of the stuff that they give out.
I use the cards to play. Like when I'm at home with my sisters or something and we're bored, I use the cards to play.
Do you prefer a specific brand of cigarettes?
No.
Probably be Marlboro, because that's, you know, that seems like what you kind of grown up with. You know, seen everyone, all the billboards, all the commercial ads, in magazines and everything. You know, that's what you see most of the time on the back of magazine covers.
I hate them all.
I don't have one, but it's like everybody where I live, everybody says that the best is Newport.
Would you rate your school performance as average, above average, or below average?
Above average because, you know, I do all my work in class and everything. I do my work at home, and I think my grades reflect it, so.
Average.
I'd rate my performance as average.
Average, yeah, basically average, 70s.
I'm about average in school. In some subjects I'm stronger, and in other subjects I'm weaker, and I study harder in them.
All right, now we're gonna take a short break while you add up all those yeses and nos. Oh yeah, if you gave any other answer to question number 3 other than don't know any, pencil that in as a yes. Okay, here we go. Now remember, the test will give you a rough idea of your likelihood to start smoking as compared to other kids who took a similar test. Just because your answers might suggest the likelihood to begin smoking, that doesn't necessarily mean you will. About those first 2 questions, whether your parents and best friends smoke, if you answered yes to either of the 2, you're more likely to begin smoking than teenagers who answered no to both questions. And if you answered yes to both questions, you're almost twice as likely to start smoking as those who answered no.
I think pressure to smoke comes from your friends mostly, because I think you're around them the most.
It's more like everyone's doing it except you, and you just feel stupid standing there like, oh, well, they're smoking and I'm not, and you just feel left out.
So I guess maybe he'll start smoking just to fit in and stick with them and stuff like that, and just be social, I guess. A bunch of people are smoking.
Because one of the main ways that kids show that they're close with other kids is to show that they're like them. And so that extends to dressing similarly, doing similar things, knowing about similar bands, and to listen to the same music and have a lot of the same ideas about things. And so smoking can become something that everybody's doing because that's a way of showing that you're in and close and intimate with a group of friends.
kids don't really want to listen to what parents tell them, no matter what, about like not to smoke or whatever, because, they feel they can't relate to them. They're like, you're my parents. You don't want to hear it from your parents. You don't want to hear it from adults.
There are a number of reasons why you're more likely to smoke if your parents smoke. One of them is because you've grown up with them, you've seen them smoke, but for you it can become associated with being grown up and being an adult. And a lot of things that we see our parents do, we end up doing ourselves. The other reason is because there probably is a genetic component to becoming addicted to nicotine. And so if your parents are smokers, it's more likely that you'll easily become addicted as well.
My mom has tried to stop smoking, and when I ask her why she still smokes, she tells me that like she's addicted. So she tried going to different programs and stuff, like Nicoderm and stuff. But it doesn't work for her. She's really addicted.
It's amazing. If you would ask a big group of adults, you'd find that 75% of them, almost all of them, want to quit. But each year, all the people who try to quit, only about 15% are able to do so when they want to.
Now, the next 5 questions were designed to find out how big a role advertising and promotion plays in your choice to smoke or not to smoke. If you answered yes to even 2 of the questions, any 2 of the questions, you're over twice as likely to start smoking than those who answered no to all 5. And now get this, if you answered yes to 4 of the 5 questions, you're almost 4 times as likely to start smoking. 4 times! And what about that last question? The one about how you perceive your own school performance? If you answered either average or below average, you have a much, much higher probability of taking that first puff than people who answered above average. This question is important because it's really about our own self-image.
A lot of kids who have a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on them, I think, smoke. Just to relax, I think.
When my friends tell me why they smoke, they say I'm stressed or I want to forget about my boyfriend, my parents, I'm having problems in my house.
If you answer average or below average, in general, you tend to feel like you're not quite doing as well at school as you could be or you would like to be, and that can be connected to feeling a sense of low self-esteem, which makes it even more important for you to fit in with a crowd and be the same as other people and feel like you're at least socially doing well.
Remember, just because your answers might have suggested a likelihood to be in smoking, it doesn't mean you will. In fact, just even thinking about these influences and how you relate to them is a step towards resisting them. While pressures from our friends, family, and even ourselves contribute to our vulnerability to smoking, perhaps the shadiest players in all of this are still the tobacco companies. By pushing all the right buttons, they create an image of smoking, which feeds directly into the emotional issues so many of us are going through. It's true that new laws may change how tobacco companies do business, but for now, they're doing everything they can to get you hooked. In order to illustrate this, we thought it might be cool to try a little experiment. We can all probably agree that jumping out of an airplane without a parachute is dangerous, even deadly. But what if we use the same creative tools that tobacco companies employ to selling cigarettes and apply them to selling this concept? Could such a stupid and dangerous idea be turned around and actually be made attractive?
The first overall problem that we had to tackle was the fact that people die jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
And we thought it was best to deal with this particular problem by ignoring it. What we want to associate with this product is a sense of excitement, independence.
That is why we decided upon this logo as our design.
Now, we have a 2-prong approach to promoting this particular product.
First, we wanted to build upon the idea that jumping out of an airplane without a parachute was a radical, cool, daring thing to do. Right here, hey man, for real adventure. Don't go along with the pack, come to no parachute country.
You know, studies indicate that teens are constantly looking for ways to rebel against society, parents, schools.
Exactly, and we felt that this text and this image associate our product with that need to rebel.
His age will allow us to to just downplay the fact that we're actually targeting the teens.
Now, the second prong to our approach is very similar to the first, but we've dressed it up a little differently. Here we go. You've reached new heights, girl. Come to no parachute country. It's your right.
It still addresses the most important things. Independence, self-assurance, self-empowerment.
She's clearly not an adult, so it enhances that rebellious tone of our message.
Rebellious tone.
You know, I think something that in an advertisement looks like rebellion is actually a sort of a clear way to comply with a certain way of looking. And what the advertisements do is they present you with a way to be, so that it is very easy to put on a cloak of something called independence or something called rebellion, when in fact it's an advertising, you know, corporate idea of what rebellion or independence is supposed to look like. Those years, I think, are, you know, it's a much more of an issue of growing independence and something that should be celebrated, rather than something that should be called a word that we tend to think of as negative.
I mean, I guess guys could like smoke Virginia Slims, but I mean, the way the advertising promotes it, like you think, you know, it's like a woman thing to do, and like only women are supposed to smoke.
You sound
it.
like it's kind of like a little clique thing you got going
Yeah.
there. Like, oh, if you're a woman, you have to be doing this.
As a young woman, you're particularly vulnerable to these messages because of the real pressure to stay thin. Tobacco companies want to make sure that you connect smoking with being beautiful, being confident, being thin, being attractive to men, being really put together and really confident. And in fact, girls who are more concerned about their weight are more likely to smoke. And I think the other reason is that it's a little bit harder as a girl to separate and be your own person at a younger age than it is for boys. And so those messages about independence and confidence and, you know, lack of uncertainty about who you are particularly directed at girls.
We've put together some mock-ups on how our campaign might be used to blanket magazines, which, though they're not particularly teen magazines, they have a heavy teen readership.
We have an extreme sports magazine, which of course is for the male image.
And we also have a woman's magazine, which appeals to the female image.
What about the newspaper ad?
Very good question. We have decided not to place any. Why? Because research shows teenagers do not read newspapers. We have decided that because we may have some problems with direct advertising, that we would sponsor some major public events in order to increase our visibility. For example, auto racing.
Or women's basketball.
Oh, I like that. I like that very much. Very nice.
And we were also thinking about some free merchandising, much like this flying disc with the logo on it.
These items almost always end up in the hands of the children.
But in order to prevent any accusations that we're trying to get children to jump out of airplanes without parachutes on, we've created
Kamikaze Cub. I'm a smart little cub. I always wear my parachute when I jump out of airplanes.
And we think this will prevent any criticism that we're trying to target the product towards children. Now, we've taken all these ideas and images and we put them together for you in a 30-second television spot, which we want to show you right now.
Hey dudes, you tired of that same old thrill?
Don't like being told what to do by someone else?
Then come to No Parachute Country. It's where real adventure lives, man.
And not just adventure for you guys, either.
What are you, crazy?
Don't let them push you around, girls! Are you still up for this, cowboy?
Absolutely! But you first!
You wimp! Come on!
Come to No Parachute Country.
all of this sound a little silly? Well, it might be if it weren't for the fact that this is exactly how tobacco companies play us. They spend almost $200 every second of every hour of every day trying to get us started and keep us hooked on cigarettes. But if smoking is as dangerous as jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, the tobacco companies aren't going to be the ones to tell us. They're not stupid.
Cut!
Another important factor as to why we smoke, one we're constantly reminded of, but probably don't fully comprehend, is the addictive quality of smoking. First, of course, there's nicotine.
When you smoke, there are three neurotransmitters that are hypothesized to be connected to smoking, and they're serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. And there are a number of theories out there as to how nicotine affects these chemicals. But in general, when a person becomes addicted, they actually develop more receptors to nicotine. And so it makes it even more difficult to quit because brain physiology changes to tolerate more and more nicotine. The brain reacts very similarly to nicotine as it does to other drugs such as cocaine.
But understanding nicotine's powerful hold on people won't stop a lot of us from starting in the first place.
Smoking becomes a way that the kids can assert their identity because it's a way that it's something that they do together in a group away from parents. You know, and that sounds very simple, but it really becomes something that they do together in groups away from adults.
So how many cigarettes can it take to become hooked?
I think it takes about 20 packs to get addicted to cigarettes.
Yeah, I think it takes about 10.
Between 1/3 and 1/2 of everybody who tries one cigarette will become addicted to it. In general, people become addicted within several weeks of trying cigarettes for the first time, and within one pack, a person can become addicted.
And it's not just the nicotine in cigarettes that's addictive. Just holding one in your hand, learning to associate it with food, friends, parties, relaxing, hanging out, can create an emotional addiction that's just as strong as the chemical one.
Well, addiction is a complicated experience that always includes an emotional and psychological component. And if you think about it, if you smoke a pack a day, you're doing something 20 times a day. When you think about that, what other things do you do 20 times a day? It's going to fit into your life and fit into certain places in your life in a very habitual way, so that it can become something you do after you have a meal, something you do with a certain group of kids after school, something that you do alone, you know, late at night, going out into the garage and having a cigarette. Something that you do first thing in the morning, something that you do last thing before you go to sleep. And so once it gets to be something that you're doing so habitually and so much in the same time of day, it is a very, very hard habit to break.
Many factors add up to why we smoke. The addictiveness of nicotine, the role of advertising, the influence of friends and family, the need to experiment and search for self-image. But all these things, they still don't add up to the total picture. See, you are the missing part of the picture. I mean, all these influences are powerful, but ultimately it's you that has the power, because it's your choice.
The insidious thing about tobacco is that it can function in so many different ways. And there's so many different psychological triggers, and it really depends on the individual and how they fit tobacco into, you know, their particular vulnerability.
So even if you do smoke, just thinking about why you do begins tipping the scale of power back in your favor. Being aware is the first step. And in a way, just by watching this video, you've already begun the process.
Giving some thought to where you smoke, how you smoke, even giving some thought to why you smoke is an excellent way to start to plan how you're going to go about quitting. Often kids don't have a lot of experience in quitting. And so if you don't have a lot of experience with something, it looks like it's easy. I think also kids overestimate the extent to which they have control over how many cigarettes they're having a day or whether they smoke or not. So that it seems that they're in complete control of it, but in fact, they haven't even tried to quit. And so something that I tell kids all the time when they say these things is, well, if it's so easy to quit, please do so right now. And let's get some experience. Why don't, you know, and then we can talk about what the experience was like.
Look, in the end, it's your life to do with what you want. But if you're someone who thinks independently, if you're someone who doesn't like their buttons being pushed by friends or big corporations, then you can't avoid the truth. Cigarettes kill. Now what you choose to do with this information, it's up to you.